The wind howled through the dense forest, carrying with it the scent of pine earth and something wild, untamed. Lila stumbled through the underbrush, her breathing ragged, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum of war. The night was cold, colder than she had ever felt, and yet it couldn't match the chill that had settled deep in her bones. She was alone, or so she thought, until the low, resonant growl pierced the stillness. From the shadows, he emerged. Towering, powerful, every muscle in his body taut and dangerous, his amber eyes glowing like molten gold in the moonlight. He was the Alpha King, the legend, the ruler of a pack whose name even the bravest hunters dared not speak aloud. And he was looking straight at her, studying her, like she was both prey and prize. "You've wandered far from safety, little Omega," he said, his voice deep, commanding, yet threaded with an edge of something dangerous. Desire. Possession. Lila didn't know, and she didn't dare find out. I didn't mean to," she stammered, trying to retreat, but her legs refused to cooperate. Fear had a way of freezing you in place, and tonight she felt it in every fiber of her being. The Alpha's gaze softened, just enough to make her pulse jump. "I can protect you," he said. "But the night is long, and the dangers many. If you endure the night in my bed—" Omega, his words were a growl, rough and seductive. "I'll set you free." Lila froze. His offer was impossible. To stay in his presence so close in the way he was looking at her. It was madness. And yet, the fear, the exhaustion, and the primal pull she felt toward him made the choice almost instinctive. She nodded, barely, trembling. The Alpha extended his hand. "Then come with me one night only, and you will be free by dawn." Her mind screamed at her to run, to refuse, but her body obeyed his pull. There was an undeniable magnetism in his aura, a dominance that consumed her senses and made her aware of her own weakness. Her Omega nature, sensitive, receptive, and attuned to his every movement. He led her to his den, a massive cave hidden beneath cascading waterfalls. Inside, the firelight danced across walls adorned with relics of his pack's history, bones, furs, and carvings that told stories of generations of kings and warriors. The air smelled of musk, earth, and raw power. Lila felt herself shiver, a mix of fear and anticipation coursing through her veins. "You will sleep here," he said, gesturing to a massive bed carved from stone and layered with furs softer than any silk she had ever touched. "But know this, Omega." He stepped closer, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "One touch from me, one word, one look, and you may never want freedom again." Her pulse raced, every nerve alight, and yet she nodded, biting her lip to keep from trembling. He was the embodiment of danger, and she, fragile, desperate, mortal, was entrusting herself to him completely. The night stretched long. The fire crackled. Outside, the forest whispered secrets. And inside, the tension between them built, taut as a drawn bowstring. He watched her sleep at first, studying the rise and fall of her chest, his wolf instincts drawn to her scent, her heartbeat, the very rhythm of her being. When she stirred, her eyes met his, and a storm of emotions flashed across them: power, need, hunger, and something softer, almost tender. Lila realized then that this night would change her, irrevocably. The Alpha King's fated mate, the one he had been searching for, whether she knew it or not, was already in his grasp. The question lingered between them, unspoken. Electric, could she endure the night? Or would she succumb to the pull of a destiny that neither of them could escape? The fire's glow painted shadows across the cave walls, flickering like restless spirits as Lila lay curled beneath the thick furs. Her heart hadn't slowed since the Alpha's words earlier. "One night, and I'll be free." The promise was both a comfort and a torment. She wanted to believe it. But every fiber of her body told her that freedom was the last thing she would find tonight. The Alpha King didn't leave. He sat across from her, silent but ever watchful. His presence was magnetic, a constant pull that made her skin prickle and her chest tighten. She tried to focus on the fire, on the shadows, on anything else. But his amber gaze found her every time, making her feel naked, exposed, and alive in ways she had never known. "You're trembling," he said softly, leaning forward. His voice was a low growl, almost a whisper, carrying both curiosity and a subtle warning. "I'm cold," Lila admitted, though she knew that wasn't entirely true. The tremble in her body wasn't from temperature. It was from him. From the sheer dominance, the raw power he exuded, the way her Omega instincts screamed at her to submit, to respond. He stood then, moving with a fluid grace that was mesmerizing, every step purposeful. "Then come closer." His hand extended, and Lila hesitated only for a heartbeat before obeying. Her feet carried her to him, each step heavy with anticipation and fear. When she knelt before him, he reached out, his fingers brushing against her hair, tracing the line of her jaw. The touch was gentle, almost tender, and it made her shiver in a way that had nothing to do with cold. "You feel different from the others," he murmured. "Strong yet fragile, fearful yet brave. Your scent." He inhaled deeply, wolf instincts flaring. "It calls to me in ways I've never experienced. You are mine, even if you don't know it yet." Lila's breath caught. "Mine." The word burned like fire across her chest. She wanted to pull away, to deny it, but her body betrayed her. She felt warmth pooling low in her belly, her pulse racing, her senses on fire. He noticed, of course. Alphas always noticed. Do you feel it too? He asked, leaning closer. His presence was overwhelming, intoxicating. The scent of him, earth musk, and something primal, hit her like a storm. Lila stammered, unable to finish. Her mind screamed caution, but her body betrayed her with every shiver, every quickened heartbeat. He crouched beside her then, his face inches from hers. Tonight is a test, he said low and commanding. A test of your endurance, your will, and perhaps your heart. One night, Omega. Only one night. Survive it, and freedom awaits. Fail and you may never leave my side. The words, though threatening, carried an undercurrent of something darker. Desire, claim, inevitability. Lila could barely think. She could barely breathe. As the night deepened, he guided her onto the bed, his hands firm but careful, ensuring her comfort while asserting his dominance. Every touch, every glance, every brush of his fingers against her skin was a test, and an awakening. She felt the stirrings of something she had never imagined, need, longing, a desire that frightened and thrilled her all at once. The forest outside was alive with whispers and rustles, but inside the cave, only the sound of their shared breathing existed. The Alpha King watched her, his amber eyes glowing brighter, his wolf instincts yearning to claim, to protect, to bond. And Lila, the fragile Omega, felt the first tremors of surrender, not to fear, but to the undeniable connection between them. Morning was still far away, and the night stretched long and full of tension. But one truth was already undeniable: she could never be the same again. The Alpha King had touched not just her body, but her soul, and whether she endured the night or not, her heart and fate were now bound to his. Perfect! The first rays of dawn filtered through the cave's entrance, casting a silver glow on the firs and stone. Lila stirred, her body still tingling from the night, every nerve alive with sensations she couldn't name. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to simply look at him. The Alpha King sat across from her, as if he had been watching her sleep the entire night, and she suspected he had. His amber eyes softened for the first time, though they still radiated power and dominance. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. His presence alone was a storm she could neither fight nor ignore. "You're awake," he said finally, his voice low, velvety, yet commanding. "Good, the night is nearly over. Remember your promise. One night, Omega. By sunrise you are free." Lila swallowed hard, her lips dry. She wanted to speak, to protest, but her voice caught. Instead, she simply nodded, though her heart betrayed her with every beat. Freedom suddenly seemed impossibly distant. The Alpha moved closer, his steps silent but deliberate, each one sending shivers down her spine. He knelt before her, his hand reaching for hers, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Do you understand what you are to me?" he asked, his voice a dangerous whisper. I think so," she whispered, though uncertainty still lingered in her tone. He smiled faintly, a predator's smile that sent warmth and fear coursing through her at the same time. "You are my fated mate, not by choice, but by destiny. Every instinct in me recognizes you. You are mine, Omega." The words should have terrified her, and yet a strange, undeniable comfort surged through her chest. She felt seen, understood, claimed not as an object, but as herself, her essence recognized in a way no one ever had. Then, without warning, he leaned closer, his lips brushing hers. It was a testing kiss, gentle yet full of promise. Lila's breath hitched, her body responding to him before her mind could catch up. The warmth, the power, the raw magnetism he exuded, it was overwhelming. He pulled back just enough to see her eyes, searching, questioning. "Tonight, Omega, is a trial," he said softly. "One night, yes, but trials are not always of endurance alone. Sometimes they are of surrender." Lila's heartbeat thundered in her chest. She wanted to pull away. She should pull away. But something deep inside, a primal, instinctual part of her, urged her to remain, to see where this connection, this fate would lead. The Alpha leaned in again, and this time the kiss deepened, claiming her mouth, her senses, her soul. His hands cradled her face, then slid down to her waist, guiding her, grounding her. Every touch, every breath was a test of will and of desire. Tears sprang to her eyes, not of fear, but of overwhelming emotion. She had never felt so seen, so wanted, so alive. Her body ached for more, and she realized with a mix of fear and longing that the Alpha King's promise of freedom might already be irrelevant. He pulled back just enough to whisper against her ear, his breath hot, intoxicating. "Endure, Omega, endure, and you may survive. Fail and you will belong to me forever." Lila's knees trembled, her fingers gripping his arms, and she understood. Tonight, she would endure not just his trial, but the awakening of a desire she had never imagined. And the Alpha King, he would never let her go. Outside, the forest stirred with the morning wind, unaware of the storm that had been unleashed inside the cave. Two fates, bound by instinct, desire, and destiny, had collided, and neither would ever be the same. The morning sun filtered through the cave entrance, casting golden light on the tangled firs where Lila and the Alpha King had spent the night. She sat up slowly, muscles stiff but her senses sharper than ever. Every inch of her body still thrummed with the memory of his touch, his scent, the intensity of his amber gaze. He watched her with an unreadable expression, a mixture of dominance, curiosity, and something softer. Something almost tender. "You survived the night," he said, his voice low and controlled, though a hint of pride lingered beneath the surface. Lila swallowed, trying to steady her racing heartbeat. I endured, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if it was endurance or surrender that had carried her through. The Alpha King stepped closer, each movement deliberate, predatory, and yet mesmerizing. You did more than endure, he murmured, his eyes locking onto hers. You survived temptation, fear, and desire. Few can do that and remain themselves. Few can resist me. His lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. Few are Omega enough to survive me. Her cheeks flushed, both from his words and the raw electricity that still pulsed between them. She wanted to deny the stirrings in her body, but they were undeniable. Her wolf instincts, her Omega nature, were calling to him, as if they had been waiting for this very moment all her life. Why me? She asked suddenly, her voice trembling. Why did you choose me? He hesitated, a rare pause that made her stomach twist. Then he spoke, his voice softer, almost haunted. Because you are different. Strong yet fragile, brave yet cautious. You are not like the others who have come before. My pack, they expect obedience, submission. But you, he shook his head slightly, amber eyes shadowed. You challenge me, and that is dangerous. For both of us. Lila's curiosity flared, mingling with fear. Dangerous how? He let out a low growl, not of anger but of restrained hunger. Because I have secrets, Omega. Secrets that have haunted me for decades. A king's life is never free from chains, and my past, it is full of shadows. If you truly belong to me, you must be ready to face them. All of them. Her breath caught. She wanted to run, to escape, to find freedom outside this cave. But something stronger held her in place. His presence, his words, his very being, it was magnetic, impossible to resist. The Alpha King moved closer again until he was mere inches away, his hand brushing hers in a gentle yet possessive claim. Tonight, you will see a glimpse of what binds me, what haunts me, and you will decide, Omega, if you are strong enough to stay by my side. Her pulse quickened, a mix of fear and anticipation swirling inside her. She nodded, silently accepting the unspoken challenge. He leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was both demanding and tender, testing her limits, exploring her boundaries. His hands roamed with authority, yet never cruelty, guiding, grounding, igniting. Every nerve in her body screamed for more, and she surrendered, not entirely, but enough to feel the pull of something deeper, something destined. Pulling back slightly, he whispered against her lips, his voice low and hypnotic. Endure the night again, Omega. Face what I must hide, and perhaps by morning, you will understand why no one else has ever been enough for me. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the scent of the forest, the wild and unseen threats. But inside the cave, only the tension, desire, and unspoken promises between them existed. The Alpha King's secrets loomed like shadows, and Lila realized that this night would test not just her body, but her heart, her soul, and her fate. The cave was quiet now, the morning sun high enough to cast long shadows across the stone floor. Lila stood near the entrance, her hair tangled and her heart still racing from the night's intensity. She felt changed, no, claimed, in ways she could neither deny nor fully understand. The Alpha King watched her from the fire-lit center of the den, his amber eyes sharp, alert yet softened with a depth of feeling that unsettled her. You're awake earlier than I expected, he said, his voice low and commanding. Rest was only a suggestion for an Omega like you. Lila's lips pressed together. I couldn't sleep, she admitted. Too much, too many thoughts. He stepped closer, his shadow enveloping her. Then we shall speak, he said, voice thick with authority and something warmer, something dangerous. You need to understand what it means to be mine. Not just tonight, but always. Her chest tightened. She had seen glimpses of his dominance, his desire, his unyielding power, but there was a vulnerability there too, hidden beneath layers of command and control. Why me? She asked again, voice trembling. There are so many Omegas, why choose me? He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his dark hair. Because no one else can withstand me, Omega. No one else can challenge me, temper my fury, awaken what lies dormant in me. His eyes glowed with something fierce, raw, and dangerously possessive. And you are fated. Even your fears, your weaknesses, they call to me, stir me. You belong to me, whether you accept it or not. A shiver ran through her. Part of her wanted to deny it, to run into the safety of the forest. But the pull of his presence was irresistible. His scent, his heat, the power in his gaze. It anchored her, claiming her in ways she had never known. Then the fire crackled and his expression darkened. But there are threats, he murmured, his voice low, tense. Enemies who would see you taken from me. Forces that do not understand the bond between fated mates. Before Lila could ask, a rustling sound echoed from the cave entrance. The Alpha King's body stiffened, his senses flaring, his wolf instincts rising to the surface. In an instant, he was between her and the threat, posture protective, eyes scanning the shadows outside. Lila felt her pulse spike, not from fear, but from the intensity of seeing him like this Alpha King, protector, predator. She had never imagined a presence so commanding, so utterly consuming. They will not take you, he said, amber eyes locking on hers, voice low, unwavering. I swear it, Omega. My fated mate is untouchable, and tonight you will understand the depths of what it means to be mine." The tension between them was electric, primal. He moved closer, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body, the subtle shift of his dominance, the pull of his desire. Lila's breath hitched, her body responding instinctively to him, to the claim he had already made with his eyes, his words, his touch. He pressed a hand to her cheek, his thumb brushing softly over her skin, grounding her. "Tonight," he murmured, "we face more than desire. We face destiny, and when the night ends, Omega, you will never question your place by my side again." Her knees weakened, her chest heaving, and she realized that this night, this trial, this connection was far beyond physical. It was about trust, surrender, and the unbreakable bond that tied them together. Her fear, her anticipation, her desire, they all converged into a single, undeniable truth: she belonged to him as much as he belonged to her. The Alpha King pulled her close, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling. The world outside, the shadows, the threats, faded into nothing. All that remained was them, the firelight, and a storm of emotions that neither could resist nor escape. And as the first warning growl of the approaching danger echoed from the forest beyond, Lila understood the truth she could not deny: there was no turning back. Her fate, her heart, her very soul were bound to the Alpha King. The forest beyond the cave trembled with movement, silent, calculated, predatory. Lila's senses prickled as the Alpha King's posture shifted, muscles coiling, wolf instincts flaring. "They're here," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "And they will not leave without a fight." Lila's heart raced. Fear and excitement mingled, a storm inside her. She had felt the pull of his dominance all night, the claim he had made over her, but seeing him ready to defend her, to risk everything, awakened something primal in her. She realized, with a jolt, that she was no longer a mere observer in his world. She was part of it, his fated mate, his equal in instinct if not in strength. The first shadow broke through the tree line. A rogue wolf, its fur dark as midnight, eyes glinting with malice. The Alpha snarled, his form shifting as the first tendrils of his wolf emerged, towering, golden-eyed, powerful beyond comprehension. Lila's Omega instincts surged in tandem, her senses attuned to his every movement, every heartbeat, every growl. "Stay behind me," he commanded, though his voice held a possessive undertone that made her shiver. But Lila didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer, grounding herself in the storm of his power. "I'm not afraid," she whispered, more to herself than him. Her hands glowed faintly with the latent energy of her Omega essence, a subtle power he had begun to awaken in her. The Alpha's eyes widened just enough for her to see the flicker of pride before he shifted fully into his wolf form, massive and radiant under the moonlight now peeking through the trees. "Then stay with me," he growled, his massive form pressing against hers, shielding her even as he prepared to strike. The rogue wolf lunged, and chaos erupted. Lila felt herself pressed against the Alpha, her heartbeat synchronizing with his, her breath mingling with his growls and the sounds of the battle. But he didn't leave her behind. Every move he made was a dance of power and protection, a deadly ballad of dominance and defense. When the fight finally ended, the rogue wolves fleeing or defeated, Lila and the Alpha were left standing, or rather trembling, their bodies slick with sweat, fur and hair tangled, hearts pounding in unison. The adrenaline, the fear, the intensity of the battle, it all combined, leaving them raw, exposed, and etchingly aware of each other. The Alpha's wolf form receded, leaving him towering over her, human once more, but still radiating the same unyielding dominance. His amber eyes blazed, and he reached for her, cupping her face in hands that were at once gentle and commanding. "You see, Omega," he whispered, his voice husky, trembling with restrained desire. "You are stronger than you realize, and tonight you have survived not just me, but the night itself." Lila's breath hitched, her body still trembling from both fear and desire. She leaned into his touch, feeling the weight of his claim, the depth of his obsession, the undeniable pull of their bond. "And you," she whispered back, her voice shaking. You've shown me what it means to belong." The Alpha King closed the distance, lips capturing hers in a kiss that was no longer tentative or testing. It was fierce, possessive, intoxicating, a declaration of desire and destiny. His hands roamed over her, igniting a fire that matched the wildness of the night outside. Every shiver, every gasp, every whispered word between them spoke of surrender and claim, fear and longing, dominance and devotion. Lila realized, fully and completely, that the night had changed everything. She could never go back to the way she was before. And as they clung to each other in the aftermath of battle and passion, the forest around them silent but watchful, one truth became impossible to deny. The Alpha King and his fated Omega were bound, not just by destiny, but by fire, desire, and an unbreakable bond forged in the night. Perfect. The cave was quiet now, the echoes of the night's battle fading into memory. Lila sat near the fire, her body still humming with the remnants of adrenaline and desire. The Alpha King stood a few feet away, his gaze distant, amber eyes clouded with thoughts he rarely shared. "You've seen my strength tonight," he said softly, almost to himself. "But there is more, far more, Omega. Shadows that have followed me for decades. Secrets that could destroy you or us." Lila looked up, sensing the weight behind his words. What kind of secrets? She asked, her voice trembling. Not from fear, but from the pull she felt toward him, from the need to understand him completely. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his dark hair, a gesture that seemed almost human in its vulnerability. I have ruled this pack for 20 years, he began. And every decision I've made has been for the survival of my people. But there are enemies, humans and wolves alike, who resent my reign, who would see me fall and claim what is mine. And there are mistakes I've made, Omega. Mistakes that haunt me every night. Leela's heart ached at the vulnerability she saw in him. He was a king, a predator, a force of nature. And yet, in this moment he was raw and real, showing her a side he had never revealed to anyone. Why are you telling me this? She asked, stepping closer. Why me? Because, he said, his voice low, intense, and threaded with something darker. You are mine, Lila. Not just in body, but in spirit. You see me, not the legend, not the king, but me, and I cannot hide from you, nor do I wish to. The words ignited something deep inside her, a longing, a trust, a surrender she could not fight. She reached out, placing a hand over his heart. It was steady, strong, yet beneath it, she felt the storms that had shaped him. I'm not afraid, she whispered. I want to be with you, all of you. Secrets, shadows, everything. His amber eyes blazed, and he closed the distance between them, hands cradling her face, lips brushing hers in a kiss that was fierce and tender all at once. You have no idea, he murmured against her lips, how much it means to hear that, to have you here, willing, beside me. The firelight flickered across their faces, and Lila realized that the Alpha King's strength was not just in his power or dominance. It was in his heart, in his ability to protect, to claim, and to love with a ferocity that matched the wildness of the night. He stepped back slightly, his forehead resting against hers. There are dangers coming, he admitted. Enemies who would exploit any weakness. And my past, it will test us, test you. But if we survive, if you survive, we will be stronger than any force that dares challenge us. Alila nodded, determination hardening in her chest. I'm ready, she said, her voice firm despite the tremor of fear beneath it. For the night, for your secrets, for us. The Alpha's lips curved into a rare, almost gentle smile. Then stay with me, Omega. Face the night, face the past, and face what you feel for me. Only together can we endure what is to come. As he pulled her into his arms, the fire crackling between them, Lila understood something undeniable. This was more than destiny, more than desire. This was fate, binding them together through fire, passion, and the unbreakable thread of a bond forged in trials, secrets, and the raw, wild heart of the Alpha King. Night fell again, heavier and darker than the previous evening. The forest surrounding the cave was alive with whispers, shadows twisting under the silver glow of the moon. Lila could feel the tension in the air, the warning, the anticipation, the scent of predators lingering just beyond the tree line. The Alpha King stood before her, his massive frame silhouetted by the moonlight. Every muscle was coiled, his golden eyes glinting with a predator's focus. They are coming, he growled, his voice low and lethal. The ones who have hunted me, the ones who will not hesitate to take what is mine. Lila's pulse raced. Fear should have gripped her, but instead she felt a strange calm settle within her. She was with him. She belonged to him, and whatever came she would face it at his side. I can help, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. Her Omega instincts had sharpened, attuned to the Alpha's movements, his energy, his needs. She felt the power within her, subtle, but real, and it surged in response to his presence. He looked at her, a flicker of surprise crossing his features before he smirked, almost approvingly. Very well, Omega. Stay close, trust your instincts, and trust me. The first attack came as a shadow darted between the trees. A rogue wolf, faster and more feral than the ones they had faced before. The Alpha lunged, powerful limbs carrying him through the underbrush, and Lila followed instinctively, her senses guiding her. They moved as one, Alpha and Omega, predator and mate. His growls echoed through the forest, and her cries of warning and instinctual guidance harmonized with them. Each movement, each strike, each dodge was a dance of survival, skill, and unspoken connection. At one point a rogue lunged at Lila from the shadows, and the Alpha was there in an instant, shifting mid, leap claws out, teeth bared. The force of him against her, protective and possessive, made her shiver. Not from fear, but from the undeniable magnetism that drew her to him. After the battle, they paused in a clearing, bodies hiving, sweat and fur mingling, hearts racing in unison. Lila looked up at him, and in the firelight of a nearby campfire the Alpha had summoned, she saw something she hadn't seen before: vulnerability beneath the dominance, an obsession beneath the control. You were incredible tonight, he said, voice husky low, as if the night itself had worn him thin but not diminished his power. You are more than my mate, Omega. You are my strength. Lila felt heat rise to her cheeks, her pulse hammering not from the fight, but from the proximity, the intensity, the undeniable claim in his words. She stepped closer, pressing herself against his chest, feeling the thrum of his heartbeat beneath her hand. And you, she whispered, her voice trembling, you are everything I never knew I needed. He captured her lips in a kiss that was at once protective and possessive, wild and tender. every nerve ignited, every instinct awakened. They clung to each other in the aftermath, sweat and desire mingling, the forest around them alive with danger yet irrelevant compared to the storm between them. As the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of distant threats, Lila realized a truth she could no longer deny: the Alpha King was hers, as completely as she was his. And together there was nothing in the night, nothing in the forest, nothing in the shadows, that could break their bond. The hunt had begun, yes, but so had something far more dangerous, far more consuming: the fire of their desire, the strength of their fated connection, and the inevitability of a love neither could resist. The forest was alive with tension, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs echoing like a warning. The Alpha King's pack had gathered at the cave's edge, senses on high alert, bodies coiled and ready. Lila stood beside him, her Omega instincts tingling, her senses sharper than ever. She could feel the threat before she saw it. A group of rogue wolves, larger and more aggressive than any they had faced before, closing in from the shadows. The Alpha's amber eyes narrowed, his body shifting slightly, muscles taut. "They've come for you," he growled, voice low and lethal. "For us. For me. And they will not leave without a fight." A fear surged in Lila, but it was tempered by something stronger: the bond she felt with him, the connection that pulsed between them, primal and undeniable. She reached out, placing a hand on his chest, feeling the heartbeat beneath her palm, steady and powerful. "I'm with you," she whispered. "Always." He let out a low growl, a mixture of approval and need. "Good," he said, "because tonight, we fight together, and nothing will stand between us." The first wave of attackers emerged, eyes glowing with malice, fangs bared. The Alpha roared, a sound that shook the trees and sent a shiver of fear through the intruders. Lila felt her Omega power stir, an instinctual energy that flowed through her veins, heightening her senses, amplifying her connection to the Alpha, and linking her to the pack. With a single command, the Alpha leaped into action, moving with lethal precision. Lila followed, her body instinctively synchronizing with his, senses guiding her movements. She dodged, blocked, and even struck when needed, her powers amplifying the Alpha's commands and bolstering the pack's defense. One rogue lunged at her, and she felt a surge of heat and energy rush through her. She reacted instinctively, placing her hand on its chest, forcing it back with an invisible but undeniable force. The wolf stumbled, snarling, and the Alpha was immediately at her side, claws and teeth at the ready, protectiveness blazing in every movement. "You are mine," he bellowed, voice echoing through the forest, a declaration of claim and possession that made Lila's heart race. The fight raged on, fierce and unrelenting. Lila's fear mingled with exhilaration, her body alive with adrenaline, her soul tethered to the Alpha in a bond that transcended words. Every glance they shared, every brush of hands, every synchronization of movement reaffirmed the undeniable truth: they were stronger together, bound by destiny, passion, and power. When the last rogue fell, fleeing into the darkness, the forest finally stilled. The pack gathered around the Alpha and Lila, sensing the connection, the bond, the unbreakable unity that now defined them both. Lila's chest heaved, body trembling from exertion, fear, and the lingering intensity of the battle. The Alpha King pulled her close, hands cradling her face, eyes blazing with both dominance and reverent desire. "You are incredible, Omega," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Stronger than I imagined and yet delicate in ways only I can see." Her breath caught. "I am yours," she admitted, voice trembling, heart hammering. "Completely." A slow, dangerous smile curved his lips. "Good," he murmured. "Because no one, not the shadows, not the threats, not the night itself, can take you from me. You are mine, Omega, as completely as I am yours." He pressed his lips to hers, a kiss that was fierce, possessive, and consuming. Every ounce of adrenaline, desire, and unspoken emotion between them exploded in that moment. Lila felt herself surrender fully, not just to the Alpha, but to the fate, the passion, and the bond that had entwined them from the first night. Outside, the forest remained silent, the danger temporarily subdued. But Lila knew, deep in her bones, that this was only the beginning. The hunt was far from over, the threats far from gone, and the bond between her and the Alpha King would be tested again and again. And she, trembling yet resolute in his arms, understood the truth fully. Now she would endure the night, the battles, and every storm to stay by his side, because she belonged to him, and he to her. The forest was calm now, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon. The pack had returned to their den, tending to the wounded and ensuring the boundaries were secure. Lila sat beside the fire, her body still humming with adrenaline, the memory of the battle vivid in every nerve. She felt the Alpha King's presence behind her, steady and commanding, and knew that even in the quiet, he was watching, protecting, and claiming. He knelt beside her, amber eyes glowing softly in the firelight. "You were remarkable tonight," he said, voice low, filled with awe and something more intimate. Pride, desire, reverence. Not just in strength, Omega, but in courage, instinct, and spirit. "You have surpassed every expectation." Lila's cheeks flushed. I was only doing what I had to," she whispered. But even as she spoke, she felt the truth in his gaze. She was more than her fears, she was more than her fragile exterior. She was a mate, a partner, and he saw that. He reached for her hand, cradling it in his massive one. "You are mine," he said simply, yet with weight that pressed into her soul. "And I will never let anyone harm you again. Not the forest, not the rogues, not fate itself. You are mine, Lila." Her heart fluttered. "I'm yours?" she whispered back, voice trembling. "Completely. I belong to you." The alpha's lips curved into a rare, tender smile. He leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Good," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion and desire. "Because a fated mate's bond is not just about survival, Omega. It is about trust, devotion, and surrender. And tonight you've proven yourself worthy of it." Lila's breath caught. "Worthy?" she asked, eyes searching his. He nodded. "The legacy of my fated mates is one of strength and fire, of hearts tested and souls intertwined. Those who come before you." His eyes darkened briefly, haunted by the memory of lost mates. They could not endure the trials. "But you are different. You are stronger, braver, and more capable than anyone I have ever claimed." The firelight reflected in her eyes as she absorbed his words. She felt seen, understood, and claimed in a way that terrified and thrilled her all at once. I want to stay with you," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Forever." The alpha's hand moved to her cheek, fingers tracing the line of her jaw, and he pulled her into his embrace. "Then you shall," he whispered, lips brushing hers in a kiss that was slow, deliberate, and full of promise. "Forever and always, Omega. You are mine, and I am yours. Nothing, not the night, the pack, nor the shadows, can break this bond." Her body pressed against his, trembling with a mixture of desire, relief, and overwhelming emotion. The trials of the night, the battles, the fear and longing, all of it had led to this moment, the undeniable, unbreakable claim of fated mates bound by destiny, fire and love. As the night deepened and the forest lay quiet around them, Lila realized the truth she had only begun to accept. The Alpha King's embrace was not just protection. It was home, it was fire, it was fate. And she would endure anything, face any danger, and surrender completely to the man who had claimed her heart, body, and soul. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of battles past and the promise of nights yet to come. But inside the cave, by the firelight, Lila and the Alpha King held each other, bound by destiny, passion, and the unbreakable threads of their fated bond. And in that quiet, intimate moment, they both understood the night had tested them, danger had pursued them, and yet, through it all, their hearts had found their home in each other. Too, the cave was quiet, the pack resting in the shadows, yet the tension in the air was palpable. The Alpha King paced slowly, each step deliberate, muscles coiled with restrained energy. Lila watched him from the fire's glow, her heart still racing, body attuned to every subtle shift in his presence. She felt his power radiate, a force that demanded reverence, obedience, and yet drew her closer with irresistible magnetism. "You need to understand, Lila," he began, amber eyes blazing as he finally turned to her. "What it means to be bound to me, to be my fated mate. It is not just passion, desire, or claim. It is legacy, blood, power, and duty, threads that run through my lineage for centuries." Lila's eyes widened. "Legacy?" she asked, voice trembling. What do you mean?" He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "My ancestors, the Alphas before me, were bound to mates in ways that transcended time and bloodlines. Every fated mate inherited not just love, but responsibility, power, and the ability to strengthen the pack. Many could not endure it, and many paid the price for failing." Her chest tightened. "And me? What am I inheriting?" A flicker of intensity crossed his face, a mixture of pride and reverence. "You are different, Lila. The Omega I claimed is not just strong, you are essential. Your strength, your instincts, your courage, they amplify my power, bind the pack, and awaken the legacy that has lain dormant in me for decades. You are not merely my mate, you are my equal, my bond, my future." The words washed over her like fire and ice. Pride, fear, desire, and all mingled in her chest. She reached up, brushing her fingers against his cheek, tracing the line of his jaw. I never imagined that I could mean this much to anyone." His amber eyes softened, yet blazed with intensity. "Not just anyone, Lila. Me, the Alpha King who has walked alone, fought shadows, and endured loss, has finally found what was missing. You." Her heart surged, and she pressed closer, feeling the undeniable pull between them. "Then I will not fail you," she whispered, her Omega nature flaring with conviction. "I will endure, fight, and stand with you always." A faint smile touched his lips, though it carried the weight of centuries. "Good. Because the threats are far from over. Enemies of the pack, rivals seeking power, shadows from my past, they will come for you. And you will need to trust me, Lila. Trust your instincts. Trust our bond." He stepped closer, closing the distance, hands cradling her face, fingers threading through her hair. "Tonight we are not just mates. Tonight we are bound by destiny, blood, and fire. And when dawn comes, there will be no denying the power we hold together." Her breath caught, chest heaving as his lips brushed hers in a kiss that was both possessive and tender, fierce and intimate. Every nerve in her body ignited, every instinct screamed surrender. And yet, beneath the passion, there was trust, devotion, and the promise of a bond that no force, no enemy, no shadow, No fate could sever. He pulled back just slightly, amber eyes searching hers, and whispered, "You are mine, Lila. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought, you are mine. And together, we will face whatever darkness dares to challenge us." The forest outside remained quiet, but within the cave, a storm of desire, devotion, and destiny raged. Lila pressed herself against him, trembling with exhilaration and fear, knowing that she was no longer just an Omega, she was the Alpha King's fated mate, a force awakened, a legacy in motion. And as the moonlight bathed them, she understood fully, nothing would ever separate them, nothing could break their bond, and the night had only just begun. The night was thick with tension, every shadow in the forest seeming to pulse with menace. Lila stood beside the Alpha King, her senses alive, her body attuned to his every movement. The bond between them had deepened, passion, trust, and instinct intertwining in ways that neither could deny. "They've come," the Alpha growled, amber eyes blazing in the moonlight. "The Bracken pack, they've been hunting us for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Tonight, they test us." Lila's heart pounded, but fear was tempered by determination. She had endured battles, danger, and desire, and she would not falter now. "Then we face them," she whispered, hand brushing against his. "Together." He nodded, jaw tight, muscles coiled like a spring. "Together," he echoed. The first shadow moved at the forest edge, sleek, powerful wolves with eyes like embers, circling, waiting. The Alpha snarled, a deep, resonating sound that shook the trees, and the pack surged forward with him at the center. Lila felt the pull of her Omega power, the connection to the Alpha intensifying with every heartbeat. Her senses sharpened, guiding the pack, amplifying the Alpha's commands, merging instinct and will into a single force. The battle erupted with a ferocity that took Lila's breath away. Wolves lunged, claws and teeth flashing, bodies moving in fluid, lethal grace. The Alpha King was a whirlwind of power, striking, defending, commanding, but always aware of Lila, keeping her safe, keeping her close. A rogue from the Bracken pack lunged at Lila, and in a reflex she didn't know she possessed, she released a pulse of Omega energy. The wolf froze mid-air, snarling, before stumbling backward, stunned. The Alpha's eyes widened briefly, a mix of awe and desire flaring, before he shifted to intercept the next attacker. "Good, Omega," he growled, his breath hot against her ear. "You are mine and you fight like it." Their movements were a dance of power and instinct, a perfect synchronization of fated mates. Lila dodged, struck, and defended, each action amplified by her bond with him. Every glance they shared, every touch, every silent command reinforced the undeniable connection that ran deeper than blood, stronger than fear. When the last rogue was driven off, fleeing into the shadows, the forest finally fell silent. Lila and the Alpha King stood at the center, bodies heaving, fur-matted, breaths mingling in the charged night air. He turned to her, eyes blazing with possessive fire. "You are incredible, Lila," he said, voice low, dangerous, yet filled with awe. "Stronger than any mate I've ever claimed. And tonight you have proven that nothing, not pack, rival, nor fate, can stand between us." Her chest heaved, adrenaline and desire mingling. "I am yours," she whispered, trembling. "Completely." The Alpha stepped closer, hands framing her face, thumbs brushing over her cheekbones. "And I am yours," he murmured. "Every heartbeat, every breath, every shadow, you are mine, Omega. And I will protect you, claim you, and love you beyond the night, beyond the battles, beyond everything." He pulled her into a fierce, consuming kiss, lips and bodies pressed together in a storm of passion and claim. Lila clung to him, surrendering completely, their bond sealing deeper with every heartbeat, every brush of skin, every whispered vow. The forest lay silent now, the threat driven away, but Lila knew. The battles, the dangers, and the challenges of being fated mates were far from over. Yet as she rested against the Alpha King, feeling the warmth and power of his embrace, she understood one truth with unwavering certainty: she belonged to him, as fully as he belonged to her. And together, they would face whatever darkness dared approach, united by desire, destiny, and an unbreakable bond forged in fire, passion, and the wild heart of the Alpha King. The forest was quiet under the full moon, yet the tension lingered like a living thing. The Alpha King stood beside Lila, his hand resting lightly on her waist, amber eyes glowing with intensity. Every fiber of his being radiated dominance, desire, and unwavering claim. But beneath it lay the vulnerability he had shown only to her. "You've endured every trial, faced every threat, and stood by my side through darkness," he said, voice low, resonating with power and emotion. "Now, it is time for you to embrace what you truly are, my fated mate." Lila's chest heaved, heart pounding in sync with his. "I am ready," she whispered, her Omega power stirring, glowing softly beneath her skin. She could feel the legacy of his lineage, the centuries of fated mates, the bond that demanded surrender, courage, and trust. And she was ready to claim it fully. He pulled her close, lips brushing hers in a kiss that was both tender and consuming, a promise and a claim rolled into one. Every touch ignited sparks of fire and desire between them, a culmination of nights spent testing boundaries, enduring trials, and surrendering to destiny. "Feel it, Omega," he whispered against her lips, his hands tracing the lines of her body, grounding her in the moment. "Our bond, our power, it is unstoppable. You are mine and I am yours. Nothing can sever this connection. Lila closed her eyes, letting the energy flow through her, amplifying the Alpha's power, merging their strengths into a single force. She felt invincible, alive, and overwhelmingly connected to him. Their bodies, their hearts, and their souls were entwined, a bond forged through passion, trust, and destiny itself. The Alpha King pressed her against his chest, lips trailing down her neck, whispering promises, claims, and desire. "You are my Omega, my strength, my heart," he murmured, "and together we are unstoppable. Our enemies, the night, the shadows, they are nothing compared to us." Her hands moved over his back, feeling the power, the dominance, and the protection that radiated from him. "I'm yours," she whispered again, voice trembling with emotion. "Forever." He captured her in a fierce, possessive embrace, their lips colliding in a kiss that spoke of passion, claim, and destiny fulfilled. Every sensation, every heartbeat, every sigh between them confirmed the truth they were fated, bound not just by desire, but by legacy, power, and an unbreakable connection that transcended time. The forest seemed to bow around them, the moonlight bathing them in silver fire as they clung together, bodies and souls entwined. In that moment, Lila understood fully she had endured the night, faced the trials, embraced her destiny, and in doing so, had become the Omega the Alpha King had been waiting for all his life. He lifted her, holding her close against his chest, and whispered into her hair, "You are mine, Lila. Every moment, every breath, every lifetime. And nothing will ever change that." Her arms wrapped around his neck, tears of joy and relief spilling over. "And I am yours," she whispered back, "always." The night stretched before them, quiet yet alive, a promise of future battles, love, and unbreakable devotion. The Alpha King and his fated mate stood together, invincible, bound by destiny, desire, and the fiery legacy of love that could never be broken. And in the silver glow of the moon, Lila realized enduring the night had not just set her free. It had bound her to a love, a power, and a destiny that would burn brightly forever. The dawn broke over the forest, painting the treetops in hues of gold and crimson. The pack had gathered around the cave, senses alert but now calm, watching the Alpha King and his fated mate with a mixture of awe and reverence. Lila stood beside him, her posture proud, her chest rising with confidence. The fire of the previous nights, the battles, the danger, the passion, still burned within her, and now it was a fire of purpose. "You have grown stronger," the Alpha King said, his voice low and filled with admiration as he observed her. "The bond we share amplifies your Omega power, Lila. But there is more to learn, more to master, more to become." Lila nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "I want to master it," she said firmly. "I want to protect the pack, protect us." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then we train together," he said. "Tonight and every night until your power is fully awakened. You will learn to channel it, to control it, and to use it to strengthen our pack. And I will be by your side, guiding you, claiming you, and pushing you." The first session began at twilight. Lila could feel her Omega energy simmering just beneath the surface, her senses heightened, her instincts sharp. The Alpha moved around her like a predator and protector, guiding her through exercises of focus, control, and release. "Feel the bond," he instructed, voice husky and commanding. "Channel your power through me, through the pack. Let it flow naturally. Do not resist it." Lila closed her eyes, concentrating, letting the energy within her rise, swell, and merge with his presence. She felt her strength magnify, a soft glow radiating from her, and when she opened her eyes, she saw the Alpha's amber gaze blazing with pride and desire. "You are ready," he murmured, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Ready to be mine in every sense of body, soul, and power." The pack watched silently, understanding the significance. Their Alpha King and his Omega mate were no longer just a leader and follower. They were a united force, fated and unstoppable. Whispers of awe passed through the wolves. She is his, he is hers. Together, they are invincible. That night after training, the Alpha and Lila retreated to their den, bodies exhausted but hearts ablaze. He pressed her against him, lips brushing hers in a slow, deliberate kiss. "You have exceeded every expectation," he whispered, fingers tracing her spine. "Every trial, every fight, every night, and yet you remain mine." Lila's breath hitched, body responding instinctively. "And I will remain yours," she whispered back. "Forever." He pulled her close, holding her as the fire of the den flickered, casting shadows that danced across their entwined forms. "Tonight," he murmured, "we claim more than bodies. We claim power, trust, and destiny. You are my fated mate, Lila. And together, nothing can stand against us." The night stretched on, filled with whispered promises, shared power, and passion that left both trembling and fulfilled. Lila knew that the training, the battles, and the trials were only the beginning, but she was ready. Together with the Alpha King, she was unstoppable, unbreakable, and fully, undeniably his. The forest lay thick under a silver moon, shadows stretching like silent sentinels across the treetops. The pack was alert, senses sharp, but tension crackled in the air like static. A new threat had arrived, one that carried the weight of power, malice, and a challenge to the Alpha King himself. "They've come," the Alpha King growled, amber eyes blazing in the moonlight. His presence was commanding, protective, and unbearably magnetic. Not for me alone but for you, Omega. For us. Lila's chest tightened, but this time fear was tempered by confidence. She had trained, grown, and fully embraced her Omega power. She was no longer just a mate. She was a force alongside him, bound by destiny, desire, and unbreakable trust. I'm ready, she whispered, stepping closer to him. Her hand brushed his chest, feeling the steady pulse of his heartbeat beneath her fingers. Together. He nodded, a faint smile curving his lips, dangerous and possessive. Together. He echoed, shifting slightly into his wolf form, muscles coiled like springs. His golden eyes locked on hers, fiery with claim and obsession. And tonight, Omega, we will show them our strength. The first wave of attackers emerged from the shadows, rogue wolves unlike any they had faced, larger, faster, and radiating a menacing intelligence. But this time, Lila did not hesitate. She let her Omega energy surge, a glowing aura surrounding her as her senses sharpened. She could feel the Alpha's power, the pack's movements, and even the emotions of the attackers. Every heartbeat, every intention. The Alpha lunged, a blur of golden fury, while Lila followed, their movements perfectly synchronized. She channeled her energy into the pack, guiding them, amplifying their strikes, and creating a protective barrier around the Alpha. Every touch, every glance between them radiated desire and trust, feeding their connection as much as their power. A massive rogue lunged at Lila, teeth bared. She reacted instinctively, pushing a surge of Omega energy outward. The wolf stumbled back, yelping, overwhelmed by the force of her power. The Alpha was immediately at her side, lips brushing hers in a fierce, possessive kiss. You are mine, he growled, teeth grazing her jaw, amber eyes blazing with need and obsession. The battle raged, a deadly ballad of power, skill, and instinct. Lila moved with precision, her energy intertwining with the Alpha's strength. Every attack, every dodge, every command reinforced their bond. It was no longer just about survival. It was a display of dominance, passion, and the unbreakable connection of fated mates. Finally, the last rogue fled, yipping into the night, leaving the forest eerily silent. The Alpha shifted back into human form, towering over her, sweat and fur glistening in the moonlight. He cupped her face, amber eyes smoldering with desire and reverence. You were magnificent, Omega, he murmured, voice thick with emotion. Stronger than any threat, stronger than I ever imagined. You are mine, completely, and I am yours. Lila's body trembled, heart racing, and she pressed herself to him. Forever, she whispered. Completely. He pulled her into a fierce, consuming kiss, hands roaming, claiming, and grounding her. Every nerve ignited, every instinct awakened. The night was theirs, bonded by fire, passion, and destiny, and nothing could ever sever the connection forged in battle, trials, and desire. The pack watched silently, recognizing what they had always known: their Alpha and his fated Omega were unstoppable, bound by blood, love, and unbreakable power. And as the moonlight bathed them, Lila realized fully the night had tested her, forged her, and awakened her. She was no longer just an Omega, she was a mate, a force, and the heart of the Alpha King's legacy. Together, they were invincible. The forest lay still under the moon, a silver hush settling over the treetops. Inside the cave, the fire's glow danced across the walls, flickering over the Alpha King and his fated mate. The battles had ended, for now, but the storm of desire, trust, and devotion between them had only just begun. The Alpha King approached Lila, amber eyes smoldering, every step radiating dominance and possessive need. Tonight, he murmured, voice low and commanding, we are not just mates. We are bound by fire, blood, and desire. Every moment, every touch, every heartbeat is ours. Lila's breath hitched, heart racing. I'm yours, she whispered, voice trembling with anticipation and longing. Completely. He closed the distance, capturing her lips in a kiss that was at once fierce and tender, possessive yet worshipful. Every movement spoke of claim, every touch of devotion. Hands traced the lines of her body, memorizing, grounding, and igniting her all at once. Feel me, Omega, he growled against her lips, voice thick with need. Feel our bond, our power, our desire. Lila pressed herself closer, surrendering completely to him, to their connection, to the fire that had been building through trials, battles, and nights of longing. Her Omega energy flared in response, glowing faintly around them, intertwining with his Alpha essence. Together they were unstoppable, a force of passion and destiny. The Alpha King lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the heart of the cave where the firelight bathed them in warm, flickering shadows. Every kiss, every caress, every whispered word deepened their bond, a fusion of lust, trust, and unbreakable devotion. You are mine, Lila, he murmured, pressing his forehead to hers, amber eyes blazing with obsession and reverence. Every heartbeat, every breath, every lifetime, you are mine, and I will guard you, claim you, and love you beyond all darkness. A tear sprang to Lila's eyes, a mixture of relief, joy, and overwhelming desire. And I am yours, she whispered, body and soul trembling with the truth she had always felt but now embraced fully. Forever. They moved together in a rhythm dictated by instinct, trust, and love, two halves becoming whole, Alpha and Omega, fated mates united in passion and destiny. The firelight flickered over their entwined forms, shadows dancing across walls as they explored, claimed, and surrendered to each other. Hours passed like minutes, the world outside fading, leaving only their hearts, their bodies, and their unbreakable bond. When finally they rested, Lila nestled against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, feeling the warmth of his body and the depth of their connection. "You are my legacy, Lila," he whispered, voice husky and tender. "My mate, my equal, my fire. Together we are eternal." She smiled, tears dampening her cheek. "And you are mine," she replied softly. "Forever, Alpha, always." Outside, the forest remained quiet, the moon casting a serene glow over the treetops. But inside the cave, a fire burned, one of desire, trust, devotion, and unbreakable love. The Alpha King and his fated Omega had survived the night, faced the trials, and claimed each other fully. And as the dawn approached, Lila knew with absolute certainty nothing. No darkness, no threat, no force in the world could ever sever the bond they had forged. They were united, unstoppable, and destined to endure together forever. The forest was eerily silent, the usual nocturnal chorus replaced by an oppressive stillness that made every hair on Lila's body stand on end. The Alpha King stood at the cave entrance, muscles coiled, amber eyes scanning the darkness. Even the pack sensed it, tension radiating like a living thing, every wolf alert and ready. "They're coming," he murmured, voice low, dangerous. "Not Rose, something older, darker. Enemies who have haunted my lineage for centuries. They will not stop until they claim what is mine and what is yours." Lila's pulse quickened. But this time fear was mingled with determination. She had trained grown, and fully embraced her Omega power. She was no longer a passive mate, she was a force alongside him, intertwined in bond and destiny. "I'm ready," she whispered, placing her hand on his chest, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath her palm. "We face it together." He nodded, amber eyes softening briefly before hardening with resolve. "Together," he echoed, shifting slightly into his wolf form, every movement radiating power and protective instinct. The first shadow emerged from the trees. A wolf larger and more menacing than any Lila had seen, fur dark as night, eyes glowing like embers, and behind it, several more moved with precision and calculated menace. The Alpha growled, a sound that rolled through the trees like thunder. "Do not underestimate them," he warned. "They are bound by ancient grudges and dark magic. You must trust your instincts, Omega. Channel your power now." Lila closed her eyes, summoning the strength within, letting her Omega energy flare like a living force. She felt the Alpha's power mingle with hers, their bond amplifying strength, courage, and precision. She reached out, sending a pulse of energy through the forest, alerting the pack and disrupting the enemy's coordinated attack. The battle erupted with violent intensity. The Alpha moved like a storm, powerful, lethal, precise, while Lila flowed with him, guiding, amplifying, and protecting. Every strike, every dodge, every howl reinforced their bond, and each time their eyes met, a silent promise passed between them together. "We are unstoppable." One of the dark wolves lunged at Lila with deadly speed. She let her Omega energy surge, and the creature froze, yelping, paralyzed by the intensity of her force. The Alpha was immediately at her side, teeth bared, claws out, amber eyes smoldering with possessive need. "You are mine!" he roared, voice resonating with claim and obsession. The forest echoed with growls, snarls, and the energy of a battle that was both physical and elemental. Lila moved seamlessly with him, their bond a living weapon, unstoppable, unbreakable. Finally, the shadows faltered, retreating into the darkness from which they had emerged. The forest fell silent once more, the danger momentarily abated. Lila's chest heaved, body trembling, and the Alpha pressed a hand to her face, amber eyes blazing with reverence and desire. "You are extraordinary, Lila," he murmured, voice thick with emotion. "Stronger than any enemy, braver than any challenger, my fated mate in every sense." She rested her forehead against his, breathing heavy, heart pounding. "I am yours," she whispered, voice filled with unwavering conviction. "Completely, always." He pulled her into a fierce, consuming embrace, lips brushing hers in a kiss that sealed the night's trials, passion and devotion. "And I am yours," he whispered back, his body and soul claiming hers utterly. "Together, nothing can ever threaten us, nothing can break us." As the moonlight bathed them, Lila realized the truth. She had always known the trials, the battles, and the shadows had not weakened them. They had forged them into an unstoppable force. Bound by destiny, passion, and unbreakable love, the Alpha King and his fated mate were ready for whatever darkness dared approach. And in that quiet, silvered forest, Lila knew without a doubt she was his, he was hers, and together, they would endure everything the night could throw at them. Forever. The forest was draped in mist, moonlight cutting through like silver blades. The Alpha King and Lila stood at the edge of a cliff, overlooking the valley below, a place whispered about in fear by the pack. This was where the source of the dark threats had been traced, an ancient, corrupted force that had lingered for centuries, targeting his lineage and now, Lila as his fated mate. "You feel it too, don't you?" he murmured, amber eyes fixed on the valley. His hand rested possessively on her waist, grounding her, claiming her. "The darkness, it is strong, but not stronger than us, not stronger than our bond." Lila inhaled sharply, feeling the pulsing energy beneath her skin. Her Omega powers, honed through trials and battles, resonated with the tension in the air. I feel it, she whispered. But we can do this. Together, he turned to her, gaze intense, predatory, and full of desire. Together he confirmed, pressing his forehead to hers. The warmth of his breath and the power of his presence made her shiver. This night will test us unlike anything before. You must trust me, Lila. Trust our bond. Trust yourself. She nodded, heart hammering. I trust you. Completely. With that, they descended into the valley, shadows of two unstoppable forces moving as one. The pack followed behind, sensing the gravity of the mission, the unity and power of their alpha and his fated mate. The first signs of corruption emerged, twisted figures cloaked in shadow, eyes glowing with malice, moving with unnatural precision. The Alpha King growled, muscles coiled, while Lila's Omega energy flared, casting a protective glow around them. The battle erupted, a storm of claws, teeth, and energy. Lila moved seamlessly with the Alpha, their bond a living weapon. Every motion was instinctive, every strike precise. She amplified his power, shielded him from unseen attacks, and sent pulses of energy to disrupt the corrupted forces. You are incredible, he growled, pressing close during a brief maneuver. Stronger than any challenge, stronger than I imagined. Lila's breath caught. I'm yours, she whispered, energy pulsing, senses alight. Completely. The corrupted leader emerged. A monstrous wolf, larger than any Lila had seen, eyes glowing like coals, aura dark and suffocating. It lunged at the Alpha, but Lila stepped forward, channeling her full Omega power. The energy burst around them, knocking the creature off balance, and giving the Alpha the opening he needed. Together, they moved as one, Alpha and Omega, fated and unstoppable. Strike after strike, pulse after pulse, they forced the darkness to retreat. Finally, the leader fell, dissipating into shadows that dissolved in the wind. The valley fell silent, tension lifting, replaced by the triumphant roar of the Alpha King. He turned to Lila, body trembling from exertion, eyes blazing with pride and desire. You are extraordinary, Lila. My mate, my strength, my heart. Tears sprang to her eyes and she pressed against him, feeling the unbreakable warmth of his body. And you are mine, she whispered. Forever. He captured her lips in a deep, possessive kiss, hands tracing her curves, claiming her anew. The battle had tested their strength, their bond, and their courage, and yet it had only made them stronger. The pack gathered around them, recognizing the Alpha and his Omega as more than leaders. They were a force of destiny, power, and love, and as the moonlight bathed the valley, Lila realized a truth she had always known: no darkness, no threat, no enemy could ever separate her from the Alpha King. Together they were unstoppable. Together they were eternal. And the night, no matter how dark, would always belong to them. The valley lay silent, bathed in the silver glow of the moon. The corrupted forces had been vanquished, their dark presence dissipated, leaving only the whispering wind through the trees. Lila leaned against the Alpha King, exhaustion and relief mingling with the simmering heat of desire. Her body ached, her energy still thrummed from the battle. But her heart was full, tethered irrevocably to him. You did well, the Alpha murmured, fingers brushing through her hair as he cradled her face. Amber eyes glimmered with both pride and a possessive heat that made her shiver. Stronger than any enemy, stronger than I ever imagined. Lila pressed her forehead to his, breathing heavy. We did it together, she whispered. I couldn't have done it without you. He chuckled low, a sound like distant thunder, and pressed his lips to hers in a kiss that was at once tender and scorching. And I couldn't have done it without you, Omega. You are my power, my heart, my legacy, and my fated mate. The words resonated deep within her. Every battle, every trial, every night spent trembling in his arms had led to this moment. She was no longer just a mate, she was his equal, his bond, and the center of his world. I'm yours, she whispered, her body trembling with desire and devotion. Completely. Forever, he grinned, lifting her into his arms and carrying her back to the den, where the pack waited silently, eyes filled with reverence and awe. The firelight flickered over their entwined forms, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. You have truly awakened, Omega, he murmured once inside, setting her down gently. Your power, your courage, your heart. You are everything I ever needed, and more. Lila's hands traced the contours of his chest, feeling the strength, the warmth, and the unyielding protection that radiated from him. And you've given me everything too, she replied softly. Safety, trust, and love I never thought I'd have. He drew her into a fierce embrace, lips brushing hers in a kiss that spoke of eternity, of destiny fulfilled, and of passion that refused to be contained. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every whispered word solidified the bond they had fought so hard to protect. The night stretched on, filled with quiet intimacy, shared warmth, and the unspoken promise of forever. Outside, the forest remained serene, a calm that belied the dangers that still lingered beyond the valley. But inside the den, Lila and the Alpha King were unstoppable, bound by fate, fire, and unbreakable love. And though shadows of the past had tested them, and future trials would surely come, Lila knew one truth with unwavering certainty. No threat, no darkness, no force could ever break the bond they had forged. Together they were eternal, unstoppable, and fated to endure whatever the night might bring. Her fingers intertwined with his, and she whispered softly, Whatever comes, we face it together. He smiled, pressing a final, possessive kiss to her forehead. Always Omega. Forever ours. This part introduces a shocking revelation about the Alpha King's lineage, setting up an even greater challenge that will push Leela and him to their limits. Physically, emotionally, and romantically. Legacy of Shadows. The cave was quiet, the fire's glow reflecting in the Alpha King's amber eyes as he sat across from Lila. Though the recent battles had been won, tension lingered, an unspoken weight that pressed on them both. Lila, he began, voice low, almost hesitant, a rarity for the Alpha who rarely showed uncertainty. There's something you must know about my lineage, our bond, and the dangers yet to come. Lila's heart skipped. What is it? She asked softly, sensing the gravity in his tone. He rose, pacing slowly, muscles taut beneath his fur, his gaze distant. The Alpha bloodline is older, darker, and far more dangerous than anyone in the pack realizes. My ancestors, some of them, were bound not just to mates, but to powers that drew enemies, forces that sought to extinguish our line. You, my fated mate, have awakened more than desire and bond. You have awakened the very legacy of our blood. Lila's breath caught. Legacy, she whispered. What does that mean for us? He stopped, amber eyes burning into hers with intensity. It means that our enemies are not only outside the pack. They are tied to me, to the bloodline I carry, to the fated mates who came before you. And they will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. A shiver ran down her spine, but alongside it surged determination. She stepped closer, hand brushing his chest. Then we face them. Together. Always. He pulled her into a fierce embrace, lips brushing hers in a kiss that was both possessive and worshipful. Always, he whispered. You are my Omega, my equal, my heart, my destiny. And whatever shadows rise, we will endure them. Together. The Alpha's revelation hung heavily in the air, but instead of fear, Lila felt resolve, power, and a deepening connection. Her Omega energy surged in response to the bond, glowing softly, intertwining with his own essence. Together they were unstoppable, their fated bond a force that even the darkest enemies could not sever. Outside, the forest remained silent, but Lila sensed the shifting winds of fate. The battles won were only the beginning. Greater challenges awaited, enemies ancient, cunning, and relentless. Yet with the Alpha King by her side, she felt invincible, ready to face whatever came. He rested his forehead against hers, amber eyes blazing. The night may bring darkness, Lila, but you and I, we are fire, and nothing can ever extinguish us. Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but of overwhelming love and devotion. And I am yours, she whispered. Forever, completely. He captured her lips in a long, consuming kiss, hands roaming possessively, hearts beating in perfect synchronization. The legacy of shadows may loom, but inside the cave, by the firelight, the Alpha King and his fated Omega stood unbroken, unshakable, and bound by a love and power that would endure all trials. The night was theirs, and whatever came next, they would face it together.